everyone. Steve Moore again. We're talking about kicking fear to the curb in the new year. It's based upon my new book, Freefall, God's Path for Courage and Boldness in Your Life. And today we're going to talk about something that's very near and dear to my heart, because I think it's probably one area that we just really need to talk about as believers. We become accustomed in our culture to powerful, platformed people who just seem to make so much sense, and they're so powerful, and they seem to do a lot. And we've almost got this professional and clergy laity mentality where we're going to let those powerful people do all the work, and we're just going to go to church and raise our hands and get all excited. Hey folks, listen, that's just not the way it works. It's not the way the Bible shows us. In the Bible, there's a story of a young woman who, if anyone had a reason to think that God had abandoned her, I think that she was it, because first of all, we don't know how, but her parents died. Both of her parents died at some point. So she's raised by a cousin. She's a very pretty girl. And at some point, life, I guess, is okay being raised by your cousin. And then soldiers come to the door. They're looking for the prettiest girls in town. So she is taken and put into a harem training program for a king who is somewhat regarded by historians as being something of a fool. Eventually, things get kind of rough, and her people are going to be wiped out. You probably know this girl is Esther, but she has that famous quotation that, actually I should say more, because it says, "Who knows it, but at such a time as this that you have come to this moment." And quite frankly, I don't know that that's anything special about anyone. God has a plan for each one of you. God has a plan for you. And the question is why are you now? What is your purpose in this moment of time in God's kingdom right now? So let's talk about it. Part of having courage is knowing what you're good at and what God put you here for. And so you may be wondering, so why am I here? And one of the things that I recommend that you do is just start to see, what are your passions? What are you concerned about? What really drives you? Maybe it's caring for people who have a hard time caring for themselves. For me, it was more along the lines of just loving God and really spending lots of time in the Word, but just seeing how God's church was just so meh. My why are you now is to activate God's church. That's why I'm doing these videos. That's why I'm writing books. I want to see God's people come alive. There's only so much that I can do as one person, but if we all get out there and do what God has intended us to do, it's going to be super powerful. I do want to read something about this concept that is so important, though. I want you to really hear this. And let me see. I think this is from Isaiah. Let me check real quick while we're sitting here. But Ezekiel 22, 30 through 31. And this is God speaking about that why are you now thing. God says, "And I sought for a man among them who should build up the wall and stand in the breach before me for the land, that I should not destroy it. But I found none. Therefore I have poured out my indignation upon them. I have consumed them with the fire of my wrath. I have returned their way upon their heads, declares the Lord." And so obviously the important thing is that God is looking for people. He has people in mind who are going to go out there and do great things in his kingdom. But if they don't stand up and accept their role courageously, things could get really bad. And so I want to suggest that when it comes to figuring out what it is that you are to do in your life, that you may be in one of three places. Number one is that you may be in a place of self-idolatry. This is unfortunately very common now in our society. We are far more narcissistic, at least in the United States, than we ever have been. Very concerned with me, 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 me. And we talk about things such as platforming. I'm going to platform myself. I'm going to make a name for myself. I'm going to be famous. There was a recent study in which teenagers, 85% of them wanted to be famous, compared to, say, the 1950s, where most boys wanted to be firemen, doctors, lawyers, and most women wanted to be housewives or teachers or nurses. Now people just want to be famous. Narcissism. It's really ugly. So first of all, if you have been concerned about what people think about you in God's kingdom, it's time to repent. If you're trying to platform yourself under the auspices of making God great, don't do that. just figure out why God put you here, and start working in that area where He has put you to work. Start being faithful to the things that God puts in front of you. Now, so that's one possibility, is that you may be in a place of self-idolatry, so you need to correct that. You need to start praying and drawing close to God and figuring out what He has for you to do. Second place you may be is you may be in a place of preparation. If you've ever studied the story of David, you know that he is anointed while he's still a fairly young man just keeping sheep. And the time from him being anointed to be king of Israel to the time he becomes king, I believe, was something like 15 years. What was happening in the meantime? God was preparing him. God may be preparing you right now for your special role. I know for me, part of the journey from being fearful to being courageous involved being in the military and going to several different hostile fire and war zones and working my way through this problem of being so fearful. And during that time, He prepared me by putting me around people that I could work amongst and encourage and learn to do this my why are you now moment of encouraging people in the church to become what they are meant to be by God. And then the third place you may be is mission ready, but you just need to get out there and do it. And if so, then let's get out there and do it. You know, sometime part of this equation of showing courage is just doing what David encouraged us to do in the Psalms, and that is taste and see that the Lord is good. In other words, if you perceive that you are mission ready and you understand your mission, step out there and let God work. It probably seems bigger than what you can do, and you are right. It is bigger than what you can do. But step out in faith and watch God work. All right, till next time, let's do this.